Ethos of Silence.
A veteran podcast aims to amplify the voices of veterans, creating a safe space for authentic conversations about their experiences, challenges, and triumphs. We seek to break the stigma surrounding mental health and foster community support, resilience, and understanding. Through storytelling, expert insights, and candid discussions, we strive to inspire healing, promote awareness, and empower veterans on their journeys.
Welcome.
Oh, you gotta look at that group chat.
All right, Chucky.
Picture too.
I hear you, Chucky. All right, man. Ethos of Silence, and we are back. All right, man. So I'm about to jump into something and see where it takes you.
Okay.
Let's see what you got here.
We're live now. We got all the silliness out. Now we just ready to have the serious.
Yeah. Got it. All right. So this is gonna get real quick.
Okay.
All right. So all right, man. So check it out. My wife left because she said she needed space. Right? I asked my therapist when I was talking to my therapist. My therapist answered me this. When your phone runs out of space, what do you do? What do you delete? The things that matter least to you, right?
Yeah.
That's when it hit me. Right there. That's when it hit me. Right? That's what space means. Like I never looked at it in that way, and I never thought of myself as somebody else would need space from whenever I do so much or find myself such a important part or an important cog in what's going on. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I'm a firm believer of quickly getting down to the root of what's going on. Them cats chewing on the mic, causing a bunch of interference. Silly Nush. I got a cat named Anushke after the Demon Slayer, and he is some amazing cat. The most lovable cat you'll ever think of, but also every now and again he gets a demon in him and just wants to attack out of the blue. So normally cats are very keep to themselves, mind their own little manners, do their little space, and you almost forget you have them as a pet. Not this one. No. Can Chuck hear me still? Of course you can. So what do you got, Chuck? What do you think about that image you got saved for me still? It's pretty fucking hilarious, buddy.
From you, and when you get out the service, I don't care if you do 20 years, 5 years, whatever, you never get back what you put in, and that's why it's called service.
Yeah.
Right. But the problem is, veterans recognize it, right, with each other, so we're more lenient with each other, we're more understanding, more forgiving. But I feel like as a whole, like civilians. And it's not their fault, right? Because the civilian world's a whole nother monster. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The way that they come up, where the civilian world, they value diplomas and degrees and certificates the way we value like deployments. You know what I mean? And rank.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's a very valid comparison in a way.
It's not the same, but at the same time, that's how I seen from my experience. I walk into a room and I got to sit down, and this college kid, with his degree, and his engineering internship or whatever, he for some reason is more valuable than maybe even guys that have done 20, 25 years. Where I work at, we got guys that have been working on planes for 30 years.
Yeah.
And he started off in the service, and then got out just like everyone else did and chased the American dream, and comes to Boeing and he puts 20 years in. And sometimes the disrespect that guys like him and guys like us get from our civilian counterparts is wild to me, because it's like you'll never know all the little things that they had to give. When you're a civilian, a lot of the stuff that you have to deal with or give up or sacrifice, that's self-inflicted to a degree, right? When you're in a service, you don't get to make your own choices.
I get that, but why do we self-inflict these wounds on ourselves when we get out? Obviously, you have the ability to not fall into needing the responsibility of getting a $1 million mansion to live in, or all these other different things, or trying to keep up with the neighbors and everything else. I mean, all I gotta do is put a Marine Corps flag right out front, and whatever I'm living in is 1,000,000 times better than the guy next to me, right? I mean, why do I need to do anything else?
I think because when you get out after being indoctrinated and everyone is wearing the same uniform and the same boots and the same covers, and we're all walking around with G-Shock watches and Camaros and Chargers and stuff like that.
You feel like you get out, you got to play catch up with the civilian world that you weren't part of, that you were outside of for so long. You feel like you got to play catch up, and you feel like you never catch up.
Yeah. I mean, I got buddies, and I say more like coworkers, like he's getting ready to buy a boat, and he's like, "Oh, you don't got a boat yet?" And I'm thinking to myself, "No, I don't got." Is that the standard by which we're determining whether or not you got a good life or not? Like, do you got a boat? Like.
Yeah.
And they're all sitting there talking about how they want to get 20-foot, 30-foot boats, and I'm like, I don't want a boat.
So it's weird, because you're talking about that, and whenever I stop and think back of the seriousness of space and what everybody else said, like I've had people who, like you, realized how violent and aggressive and offensive of a person I could be, right? And then I have people who are around me now who cannot believe how gentle and nice, and how I maintain my cool, right? And for certain people, you will never understand the violence it took to become that gentle.
Yep. I like that.
Because there's people who lose their mind over the fact of this part's not going to come in the day, and it's like, dude, there's bigger fish in the world. I'm a firm believer. I'm gonna jump into something somewhat controversial. I'm a firm believer that every police officer on the streets should have to go through military training. Like they should have to go to MCT and fire some live rounds and throw a goddamn grenade and figure out what real fucking danger close is before they're ever a police officer or an ICE officer or any of this other crazy stuff going on in the country, where you're very quick to pull out your service weapon and shoot at somebody. Like, you are not in danger. What are you doing?
You know what? I'm gonna agree with you. The one thing that makes it just infuriates me, because we've been overseas, and you got 18, 19-year-olds, coming from the Midwest, from California, from Texas, and everywhere else in between, and you send them to Afghanistan and Iraq, and they're not, discharging their weapon at every time they get confronted by somebody.
Because they're well aware of what the repercussions are going to happen to them when they do it. I feel like that's the difference, is like us in the military. If we were to just decide that we wanted to fire off and pop off some rounds, they knew how many rounds they issued to everybody. Like, well, we're going to count all your rounds and figure out who fired them off, because you all want to be idiots and nobody wants to tell us who shot. It's like, oh, well, why are you missing these rounds? Why are you missing these rounds? Why are you missing these rounds? Cool. You're getting NJP'd. You're getting NJP'd. You're getting NJP'd. It's like,
I don't know what's so hard about why they don't want to wear body cam footage.
It's because
you're not doing anything wrong.
It's because we don't want to enforce. We don't want to inspect what we expect. We expect people to perform at a certain level, and we don't want to inspect or hold them to performing at that level. Like, if you're going to pay somebody and give them all the state benefits and everything else, hold them to that level. Like, I don't understand it either. I really don't. That's something that we both see eye to eye on, but there's never going to be a fix, because we want it to be a diversive problem. So we're talking about that instead of the next amazing thing that actually needs to happen. Because if everybody was ever on the same page about stuff, then real change would happen, and we're not ready for we don't really want real change. We want the illusion of diversity so that we can just push things through the system.
I think what it really is, it boils down to, there's classes of people, right? There's the haves and the have-nots, and you see it when you see people of privilege, get away with lighter sentences because they got a better lawyer. And I understand there is something to be said about you get what you pay for. You know what I mean? But at the same time, like, wrong is wrong. When you have cops going around masked up, no ID, pulling people out of cars, it's just wrong.
Yeah.
Going back to the military, even if I was wrong, even if you knew I had done something wrong, you have to stop. You have to read me my rights. There's a process to it, and I think sometimes when you have a society and you have people, they're saying, okay, as long as it doesn't affect me, right? As long as I'm not in that group, because at first, when they were talking about, we're going to get rid of all the criminals, I'll be honest, I was all for it. Hey, you know what? We put a man in the office. He says he's going to get rid of the criminals. I haven't been victimized by crime, but I've known people that have, and I don't want that to happen to them. Yeah, let's go get the criminals. But then when you hear about, people getting pulled out of cars and
is this the kind of craziness that we've went and defended to happen? It's crazy, and it's insane to think that this is the type of stuff that we went and defended to make happen. Truly.
I get sick, man. You had that cop, was it in Georgia, who shot that lady in her own house? She was holding a pot of water.
Yeah.
And he said he felt threatened. Like, from what? Right.
Like, you're in her house and she's over here boiling some water. I mean, like, come on. This is just, it's getting absurd, and as much as I like politically some of the stuff that Donald Trump does, right? This stuff in Minnesota where he will not openly condemn the male nurse that was carrying a sidearm, that had 6 ICE agents come and hold him down because he was filming or whatever close to him, and one of them takes the gun off of him and walks away, and then another one's beating him in the face, and then one of them shoots him, and then they all back up, and each one of them takes a pop shot at him on the ground, right? So, like, at that point, like, I'm not against anything that they are doing with ICE to try and look for people who are here illegally. I mean, my honest opinion of that is completely different than what's going on, but I'm not completely against it either, right? So like, if they're going to be doing that, just hold the police officers, hold the rotten eggs accountable. Just hold the rotten eggs accountable, throw them in the brig, do what you got to do with them, send them off where you got to send them, hold them accountable. I don't care. You know, put them on an island together and let them fight it out. If so, put some video cameras out there and we can televise it. I don't care what you do with these guys. I really don't. You know, if you think justice is throwing them in an MMA cage with one of these fighters from another country, like, cool, we'll put them in there one at a time. We can chain them to the wall, let the fighter beat the hell out of them. I don't care. I really don't.
Got that in 10 months, right? Removing all the red tape, removing all the craziness, you know, and getting that done. That was pretty amazing. I turn on the TV and, you know, what's going on with all these investigations? Why is it taking so long to get us answers? What, you know, when they were talking about the incidents going to the boat shooting, I'm not even going to talk about accident anymore. I'm going to talk about those boat shootings. You know what I mean?
Okay.
There's a point when you're in the military and you're going through boot camp and everything like that, and we get to McNabb, and they talk about force, right? Escalation of force.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I don't think a battleship versus a speedboat is a fair fight.
No.
I'm not saying that every fight has to be a fair fight. But what I'm saying is what is in that second video that you don't want us to see? I know. If I'm doing something I ain't supposed to do, the last thing I want is somebody seeing it on video. You know?
Yeah. So I know like a small boat versus a naval vessel is not a fair fight. I get it. But in the defense of the naval vessel, right, we're following protocol. In the defense of the car speeding through Iraq, we're following protocol. But the problem is, like, the car doesn't know the protocol. The boat doesn't know the protocol. They don't understand the fact that we sent up this flare means that, hey, man, you're within 500 yards of us, you know, and then the fact that we do this warning shot at which a warning shot doesn't exist. If we're going to fire, we're firing for effect. We're not firing for a warning, right? But I'm just saying in theory, you know, if the next escalation was a warning shot or whatever, you know, it's just like, I don't understand why we don't have a device that we can just shoot an AMP and the engine on the boat fucking stops. You know, like, why do we have to saw this fucking thing in half? Why do we have to, like, take such aggressive approaches to different things? You know, it's like the fact of us firing a $100,000 rocket at a $500 drone. Like, at some point, the math doesn't make sense for what we're doing.
Yeah, I believe you. You know what I'm saying? I'm right there with you, because when somebody tells me, "Oh, well, you know, that's what we got to do because we don't want to get our troops directly involved." Hey, we've had the Coast Guard for years now. You know, you want to talk about boarding ships, and you want to talk about doing it the proper way. They've been doing this for years. We've seized drugs, we've seized prisoners, all kinds of stuff on boats.
I had
and that's all of a sudden now.
I had a Navy guy, right? And because I'm gonna change up the subject, because right now we're just taking turns bitching and we're both saying the same thing. So I had a Navy guy who worked on subs, right? And he told me this joke about the Coast Guard. He said, you know why everybody who joins the Coast Guard has to be 6 foot tall?
Why?
And so when their boat sinks, they can walk back to land.
Wow. You know what? Like I said,
now I appreciate the Coast Guard a lot. It's amazing to have a dedicated, like, it is very, very important that we realize that we have a dedicated service that is supposed to monitor our coastline, and it's not something that falls into some of our traditional military stuff, it's got its entire branch, so it's got its own funding and everything else. So somebody can't just be, well, we'll save the money from doing this and decide to go do that. So it's very, very important.
Look, I feel like as a society, shit's getting dumber and dumber. You're asking 18 and 19-year-old young men and women to go serve, give up a portion of their life, and then they come back to this. You know what I mean? Like, they can't buy a house, and we're being told, like, look, I'm not gonna name companies names, you know what I mean? But it's crazy how you open up your phone and so-and-so's recorded their 5th straight recorded profit for this year, right? But you got employees, picketing and talking about they can't live. But, our shareholders got a 60% increase. Our CEO got a $10 million bonus. Like, what's going on, man?
So what's going on is capitalism. Capitalism is not fair. It is a result of a bunch of different things in a system, which makes me sound like I'm one of these people on Capitol Hill trying to explain to you why you don't have enough money to pay for groceries. It is not a perfect system, but it is a system, and it's the system that we have in place. And like I told you before, the problem is the fact that all these CEOs are trying to make these record profits, and the very quickest way to increase a profit margin is to lower the expense on your employees, because they are typically the largest expense on a business. So whenever you can figure out how to run with one less person, whenever we perform a miracle once, it becomes the standard. And it was not that way in the military, because the military had a set specified number of people you were going to get. So just because so-and-so was sick or so-and-so sucked, hey, look, this squadron's running a little leaner because we have, for example, Staffs on Leg, right? Leg came from the infantry. So Leg, it took him a little bit of time to learn the aircraft, work on the aircraft, do other things. So you learned different things from him that were more Marine Corps related than aircraft related at the beginning, until he became and fell into his own little rhythm of being very, very knowledgeable on the aircraft and being able to do what he can do and can't do what he can't do. So he avoids what he can't do and he doubles down on what he's good at, right? And 311 allowed him the ability to broom, the ability to do different things, right? So a squadron that did not have to rely on a sergeant coming in that had no idea about the aircraft and was like me, a sergeant transferring in who knew everything, had all the quals and everything else, and just need to get spooled up on the way this squadron does stuff, is completely different on like the asset to tracking the who you've got, what's going on, right? But on paper, it looks like they're the same sergeant because they're both sergeants in that MOS. That makes sense?
Yeah.
So they both should be able to do the same thing, right? And so you get allocated so many assets to each thing. Like at one point we had so many corporals, we were sending Hunt down the road and all kind of different people. We were sending people with quals. We had people we had Griggs, we weren't even trusting her to change a light bulb. She goes down the street, gets a CDI low power. It's like the level of what we had 311 running at whenever I was running stuff, when I was there as a cog in the wheel running stuff, was at a completely different level than what other squadrons ran at. So I mean, you were seeing things at like an optimal level, and everything has its ebbs and flows. Markets have its ebbs and flows. Everything has its ebbs and flows, where you have the people who've been there long enough to carry, and then you have the, come back from a deployment and you have two corporals running a show in one shop all by themselves because the staff NCOs left, the sergeants have gotten out the Marine Corps or went to recruiting school and went and did what they did next and everything else. And you've got a Chuck and a Guzman running everything, and it's like, wow, that happened fast.
Mm-hmm.
So life presents challenges, and normally we rise to whatever that is. And if y'all weren't able to rise to that challenge, they'd have went down the street and found some people to bring over and made everything work somehow and figured it all out. But y'all rose to the challenge. But I mean, you and Goose rose to the challenge mostly because Goose was the GTA villain of forever, which would be awesome for him to tell that story, man. That story with the correct little TikTok would go viral overnight, dog. That would put us on the map. We'd never have to work. We could be like some of them rich people, get hit by the Amazon truck, never have to work again in our lives. Just sit around, drink, and talk on a podcast.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I'm just looking at observations what's going on in the world, man. It just drives me crazy, man. It really does, because it seems like on the civilian side of it, you see these corporations slowly taking over, influencing politicians and stuff like that, and we're just expected to turn a blind eye.
So
it's crazy because.
So I've got a quote that is gonna knock your socks off right now.
Yeah.
That's your fucking problem, isn't it? No, really. Like, that's your problem. That is driving you crazy, and that is your problem. There's nothing you can do to fix it. There's nothing you can do about it, you know? It's not like it's the car's making this noise and you go change a part.
Well,
it's what's going on the world stage. What can you do to fix that right now? Are you going to get involved in politics?
Hold on. Let's think about this for a second.
Yeah, okay, let's think it out.
Before I talk about getting into politics, because realistically, it wouldn't take me getting into politics. We got to take the masses and the people, right? Look at that. When Jimmy Kimmel got let go, fired, whatever. I think it was Jimmy Kimmel, right? And everyone, like, literally overnight, within the span of like 2 or 3 days, started canceling their Disney subscriptions and stuff like that. And you literally have,
because money talks.
Yep. You know, because like you said, this is a capitalist society, right? So you have the president that has a beef with a guy on a television network that goes, you know, and I'm gonna say what it is. Hey, look, for everything Sleepy Joe Biden and Barack Obama and George Bush and all of them were good and bad, right? I feel like Trump is just not as tough as skin as most politicians, because you know, somebody upsets or hurts his feelings, and before you know it, he's got his goons going out and trying to get rid of the guy, and then just slap a sticker and say, oh, it's all in the interest of the American people, right? The American people want this. I thought that dude was funny, but when you watch people come together, and that's what they try to do. They try to keep us busy and distract us, because at the end of the day, you get a large enough amount of people, veterans, civilians, and everything else in between. You get us together all on one page, we're unstoppable, man. I canceled my Disney subscription. Yeah. I did it because when I got on TikTok and everything else, everyone was like, hey, cancel your Disney subscription. And at first I'm like, I'm not going to do that. But then, I don't really use it anyway. I keep seeing it. Before you know it, I cancel it. And, the next day later, hey, Disney said, hey, my bad, we're bringing them back. Like, no, it's okay. You know what I mean? And I feel like if we put the pressure,
because money talks.
If we put the pressure to these politicians, because what they need is the votes, right? Don't get me wrong, they get the money from the corporations to run the ads, to run the smear campaigns, but at the end of the day, if nobody shows up to the ballot box, well,
that's where the Venezuelan voting machines come in that automatically decides who's going to win anyway, right?
Well, that's, again, we got to get out. People got to get out. We got to get there and vote for the people that are going to affect change. We're not. Stop voting for, the Republican because you say you're a Republican, right? If you don't align with the shit that he's saying, but you're still, voting for the Republican because you don't want to be called a Democrat or you don't want to be called a liberal, like, actually do your homework.
Let me make you eat those words, man. When's the last time you voted for a local election?
You know what?
Are you registered to vote in Jacksonville where you're at, or what?
Yeah.
Do you pay attention to your local politicians and what's going on with your sheriff and all the other different stuff going on in your county and who the DA is and all that amazing stuff?
I actually started for senator. Yeah. And I looked in for governor, too, because Ron DeSantis is going to be gone here soon. So I have started.
Yeah, because he can only do those 2 terms. So you're about to figure out what to do after DeSantis, huh?
Yeah, he's talking about getting his wife in there. I don't think so. But you know, yeah, don't even get me started with her and them and that whole family.
Okay. Well, I mean, at least you're somebody who's saying it and you're involved locally. Like, there's some people who've never voted in their life and they still have a political opinion. Like, if you're not going to go and cast your vote, then please keep your opinion to yourself. Because, I mean, if you're not going to back it up at the ballot box, then, you know, it's not good for anyone.
I voted in this last election, you know.
I hear you, buddy. Hey, any last words of wisdom? We're at 29.
Oh, wow. Educate yourself so they can't, you know, confuse you. Mm-hmm. Educate yourself.
Iron sharpens iron, buddy. We out.
We now have a moment of silent prayer for those still in the battle, for our departed comrades, for those missing in action, and for those held as prisoners of war.